welcome back to another Pop Review. I'm Alex.
I'm Sean.
And we're going to be reviewing Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This movie was so good.
Yes.
Before we go any further, I just want you all to know this is going to be a spoiler review.
Yes, it is.
So if you haven't seen the movie, go do that and then come back. Because we're going to be talking about some plot points and other things that will probably spoil the film. So
please go see the movie. It was amazing. I had a great time.
If you guys have been watching the channel and you know me, you know that I pretty much hate everything. I actually really loved this movie. You guys, I thought it was so good.
It really was. And not even if you're just a Spider-Man fan. If you're a Spider-Man fan, you're going to love it. But I think if you can love this movie from different aspects. If you love animation movies, it's good for that. If you're into Spider-Man, it's good to that. If you're just looking for like a coming-of-age movie, it's good for that. If you're looking for a superhero movie, it's good for that. Or if you just like good movies, it's that too. So, I mean, it works on so many
Checks a lot of boxes.
It really does. I mean, the fact that this movie is just so self-aware. It knows exactly what it is. It knows exactly who it's catering to. And it's winking at you as well as like, all right, come along for the ride. It's just so... It was very refreshing to say none the least.
Refreshing is the word that I keep using over and over and over when I'm describing this movie to people.
Yeah.
Refreshing, because we're getting a lot of we're in the era of superhero movies. We are. Like, this is where we are. And they're all kind of the same. Like, you can have some nuance between a few, but they're all kind of live action with a lot of CGI, and it's very similar tonally and visually.
Yeah.
So it's been really nice to see this film sort of completely break that mold.
Yeah, I mean, we don't get a lot of theatrical superhero movies, but I think, we are in the age of superhero movies. What?
What? With, like, Avengers and all that stuff?
Well, no, we don't get a lot of animated.
Oh, you said theatrical.
Yeah, animated theatrical movies.
I didn't hear that word.
I'm sorry if you didn't hear it, but yes, we're in the age of superheroes, but I don't think they're necessarily all the same now. I think back in the early 2000s, they were all very cookie cutter. Now that they're kind of bleeding into other genres, they're taking that superhero formula and making horror films, making comedy films.
But we haven't seen a horror film yet.
Well, there's going to be one.
Right.
If you look at the New Mutants trailer that's coming out next year, we're going to kind of get a little bit of that. If you're looking at the James Gunn project that's coming out next year, that kind of takes a little rift on Superman if he went bad if he was a kid. So we are going to get a little bit of a taste of that. But it's just nice to see a movie not only like make fun of itself and all the past Spider-Man movies that have come out, but just like the animation in this movie. I've never seen anything like it. Like, it's a good combination of traditional animation and computer graphics. It's just beautiful just to look at it. Like, I could just look at that movie and like nothing could really happen. They could just take me on a tour of the virtual New York and I would just love it.
Yeah, just like 3 hours of going through virtual New York, and Sean's just like, whoa.
Yeah, I would. I'd be like, home.
Aw, yeah.
Just looking at it, it's like the way that it just looks amazing. Like, I can't speak about the animation enough. And please, you might think like, oh, well, this movie's just for kids. Please, it's not. And I know there's a stigma around animated movies that, it's just for kids, or I have to have kids to see this movie. No, if you like good movies...
And if you're a human being...
Yes, you will love this movie. So don't let it be animated stop you from seeing this movie. It is amazing.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the visuals before we actually get into the story. They're really groundbreaking. Yes. I really like that they're bringing in the look of a comic. Not even just the look of a comic, but in terms of the editing, like the feel of a comic.
Embracing
it. Like, we see the narrator little boxes with text up above, and we hear some inner monologue that also is shown in text on the screen.
Like just panels.
Then there's the toning, like the dots. There's a word for it, which I'm not bringing to mind right now, but it's very common in comic books and manga as well. This, like, dot toning, you guys know what I mean. The shading.
Okay.
Which is all dots. Little dots. Tiny little dots. And we have a lot of that. We have a lot of I think it's a lot inspired by like the color and the vibe of like street art, which makes a lot of sense because of Miles's hobby.
Yeah.
Like he really embraces that type of art, and it just feels so exciting to watch. It's not boring at all.
No.
Just visually, not even with the story. Like you said, like if you just wanted to cruise through New York, like that would be fun.
It's a love letter to New York in a sense, animated. It really made me feel home again. Like it embraced Brooklyn for what it was and what it is, and not only Brooklyn but Manhattan as well. And we got a little bit of Queens thrown in there too. So it just like I wish and hope that come Oscar season in February that. Like, it probably is going to get nominated for a Best Animated Movie, but I think it should really be considered for winning. Because this kind of animation is groundbreaking. Like, but because it is and it's not a Disney film or a Pixar film, will it win? I hope it does, but I just don't want people just to second guess it so quickly. Because the animation in this movie is breathtaking. It really is.
Yeah, and I want to latch on to what you said about it not being a kid's film. You know, it's fun and it's silly and it's fun, but also deals with a lot of really human themes.
Oh,
so
yeah, absolutely.
We can talk about that a little bit now if you want. For me, the character of Miles really just spoke to me as someone who's not a black youth in New York. Like, they're really dealing... So there's that element, but they're also really dealing with just what it's like to be a person. Like, you know, feelings of alienation, feelings of, you know, you're not where you belong or you're not reaching your potential. And we all have felt that. And there were so many times in the movie where I'm like, oh, Miles, I get you, bro. I get you. And it's really not that common for me to respond that way to a film. Yeah. So, like, the writing is incredible. And then, of course, the voice acting. Obviously, you have to have good actors if you want to sell the movie. So...
And it's funny how you talk about Miles, like how you can relate to him. It's also again refreshing to see diversity in even in the superhero movie genre, which we're getting more of. But just to see Miles go about his everyday life because he's half black, half Latin. So it's to have that element as well as just so like someone like me can relate to him. Someone who is Latin descent can relate to him. But even if you could just relate to him as a person, regardless of what your background or race is, you can still relate to him. Him trying to relate to his parents, him trying to relate to going to a new school, him trying to relate to his roommate, him trying to relate to getting powers, his relationship with his uncle. Once you find out his uncle's the Prowler. It's like all, like, dealing with Spider-Man, dealing with the Spider-Man, Peter Parker, Peter B. Parker.
Yeah. Parker Peter.
Yeah, say that faster time. So just like all these different relationships, like really like my attention always, and the film always went back to Miles and his perspective and what he's doing. Because we're looking at this through his eyes, through fresh eyes. And it was also nice to just see a different side of Peter as well. So we got two Peter Parkers. The Parker from that universe.
Parker Peakers.
And then we got a Peter B. Parker from another universe. And it was just great to see that dynamic. We never saw, like, over-the-hill Spider-Man before, where he's like, oh, I've been there, done that, you know, having troubles with Mary Jane, like, got a little bit of a spider gut going on there. It was just nice to see from his point of view, too, and the lessons that he learned, that Miles taught him, and then him teaching Miles. It was just a very great dynamic that we haven't seen before.
Exactly, and you touched on the Spider-Man franchise.
Yeah.
And what that means for this and what that means for fans. So I will say there were just a couple things that I didn't like. Not that I didn't like, but I thought that could have been better about this movie. So we'll talk about that probably at the very, very end, what maybe could have been better. But for now, we'll talk about Spider-Man and what this means for fans. So the Spider-Verse basically came to fruition in 2014, I think it was.
Somewhere around that, yeah.
Although there were Spider-Men who existed before that, it wasn't until then that they meaning the writers, I guess, decided to be like, oh, what if all these different Spider-Mens became one in this one universe?
Yeah.
Or what if they were just multi-dimensional Spider-Men or women?
Or people, let's just say Spider-People.
Spider-Animals.
That's true.
Or spider robots. You know. It's really all inclusive, guys. Like we're living in the age of all inclusivity. So as someone who I like Spider-Man. Spider-Man's probably my top. Batman, I think, is my favorite superhero, and then it's Spider-Man. So I love Spider-Man, even though I don't have time to delve into the spider nuances because I'm all about Pokemon, right? So like most of my brain has to be used for that. But let's just say that I do like Spider-Man. And for me, as a casual fan, it was really fun to delve into this world where I didn't realize how many other spider beings there were.
Yeah. And there's a lot more that they didn't really dive into, absolutely. Which I hope if we get a sequel that they go down that road, which it kind of alluded to at the end.
I think they knew how good this movie was going to be and how well it was going to do, and so they're like, well, let's just save the other spider people for the other spider sequels.
I hope. I really, really hope so.
Yeah. And so it was fun. Like, we've seen iteration. It's like we've had 3 different reboots of live action Spider-Man.
Yeah,
like actual reboots where we're seeing the same like origin story, or at least close.
Well, we've seen it twice, and then when Spider-Man got put into the MCU, they kind of just alluded to his origin because we've all seen it. We all know it. If you don't know it, then I don't know what to tell you. But so I like how they just kind of like, we don't need to tell that story. Let's just he's Spider-Man. Go.
Exactly, but that's been getting old, right? Because it's like, I get it. Like, what else can you do with this outside of just casting a new actor? Mm-hmm. Well, this is what you can do, in order to freshen it up. And we're seeing all these different parts of the comic universe come together. I don't know. I really can't get over how cool that is and how excited I am about that.
Yeah, but it's also nice to bring Miles into the forefront of the non-comic book reader, because if you just say Spider-Man to the casual moviegoer, you're automatically going to say Peter Parker. Or just like you say Superman, Clark Kent, Batman, Bruce Wayne.
Yep.
So bringing Miles in, and obviously Miles is a person of color, just bring him to the forefront that now you don't automatically, when you say Spider-Man, you say Peter Parker, you could also be talking about Miles now. Because
important.
For people, like little kids seeing this movie, now Spider-Man, they might just say Miles Morales instead of Peter Parker. Mm-hmm. And that, for me, that's a good thing. Having variety is always a good thing.
Or also, Spider-Gwen, like Spider-Woman, for example. Like, if you're a lady and, you can relate to this story, you suddenly have a female to look up to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I'm sure we'll see more of. Apparently, according to the ending.
Well, there's also a rumor that there's going to be a all-female spin-off of the Spider-Verse, so it might be.
So we have Silk, who's the Korean American Spider-Woman, and then what's the other one that's?
Well, we have
Spider-Gwen.
Spider-Gwen. We also have
there's another one now.
Penny kind of Parker. That was
Penny. There's a 4th.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You guys know who the other one is.
Yeah, you guys know.
And hopefully Aunt May comes along.
Dude, she's a badass!
This version is not like a damsel in the
badass.
Yeah, she's a badass. So maybe hopefully she's involved in it too, because she was kind of involved in this. Kind of like, it's just when Miles realized, he's going to take a leap, she was like, oh, what took you so long? Like, I already have a suit for you already. So I hope she's involved in the spin-off too. So hopefully we get to look forward to that as well.
Yeah, there's just so many possibilities that open up the gates for something that we haven't seen before, not even just visually, but just in terms of the story. And I guess now's a good time to talk about all the different spider people that we saw. So, we have, and they all have their own, series.
Yes.
So they all have their own backstories,
own
emotional journey.
Lost their own people as well.
Yes. Such a powerful moment. To know that in every dimension you're gonna be sad.
Or someone's getting bitten by a spider somewhere, somehow.
If you get bit by a spider or befriend a spider psychically, you're gonna have a great loss in your life. And and that was such a great moment at the end. Anyway, so we have Penny, who's from the future, who befriends this psychic spider who lives inside her robot.
Yeah.
Which is I love that because the style of the animation is so different because it's like an anime.
Yeah, which was nice.
Thing.
Like when she's like leaping, she's like going like from there to there. But the way they, how like animation works, like it's Japanese animation is great.
It's so great. And then we have I personally really liked the Noir Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Spider-Man Noir. Just like the jokes were so funny.
Well, voiced by Nicolas Cage.
And voiced by Nicolas Cage.
Which is like, you wouldn't think that's the first person you would think like, oh, he's gonna voice Spider-Man Noir. Maybe. But then once he started talking, you're like, oh, he has to do it again. Like, you have to bring him back just so he just did such an amazing job.
Yep. And then we have, obviously, the other Peter Parker.
Yeah,
Peter Parker.
Why are we both having
Porker.
say
oh
Peter
my
Parker?
God. Because I want to say Peter Porker.
Well, there is Peter Porker.
Exactly.
And then Peter B. Parker is the second story.
Right, but Peter Porker is not a pig who got bit by a spider. It's a spider who got bitten by a radioactive pig, which is hilarious to me. And that is so funny, and obviously very slapstick and classic, and just tonally different. So like everybody has their own little personality and their like genre that they have to fulfill.
Yeah.
Which is so great. And then of course we have Spider-Gwen, we have Spider-Woman, who we are probably closer to in terms of the spider people who come down and talk to Miles and help him figure
stuff out. Well, plus, like how we got introduced to her kind of first, even though we don't know that could have been the Gwen from his universe. It's just that she's the Gwen from a different universe.
Right, yes. Which was a little confusing at first, but I figured it out. So that was one of the things that I really liked most about this movie was all these different versions of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That was just so fun for me.
Yeah, plus when they all had that moment when they all shared that, like, part of being Spider-Man is having a great loss. Even, like, Spider-Ham is saying, we've all lost people. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of the thing that kind of identifies you as being Spider-Man.
Yep.
And that drive to move forward, that great Uncle Ben line, with great power comes great responsibility.
Don't even finish that sentence!
But I did already, too. Like having to embrace the loss and, like, help it channel you to move forward is something that, even though they all are from different genres and they have their own characteristics, that kind of binds them all together. And I love to see that going forward with other Spider people, like just seeing how like when Gwen lost Peter, which is a nice play on it too, because like her best friend was Peter, instead of him getting bit, she got bit. So just kind of things like that just make this just add a lot of layers and texture to a movie like this, which you wouldn't expect from an animated movie. That's why you shouldn't dismiss it so quickly. Yeah,
the writing was pretty much perfect. What should we talk about next? Let's talk about...
Well, we could talk about the Kingpin, so...
I was just going to say the villain.
Yeah, so...
Perfect.
It's always nice to see, like, different versions of the characters we did see. So instead of Dr. Octopus, we saw his wife as Dr. Octopus.
A female Doc Ock.
Yeah, female Doc Ock, which kind of was like, oh, that's a nice little twist.
Yeah.
What a twist. I like how Kingpin was drawn, and I like his motivation, him trying to get Vanessa and his son back. It's like, even someone who is ruthless as the Kingpin is motivated by, not only just by power, but by love too. He's like, I lost my family, I want to get it back no matter what the cost. If I have to destroy the multiverse, so be it. I want to get my wife and son back.
We talk about this so often with villains, and this is actually a perfect example of what I like in a villain. Like, this guy's evil, like, he will hurt you, he will hurt the people that you love, but he, like you said, is motivated by a very human quality. That quality being wanting to fix a mistake that he made, but he still isn't equipped to do it because he's still an evil guy.
Yeah.
And it is a little tragic, watching him make the same mistake again when Vanessa and Robert? No. Am I making that up? His son?
His son is escaping.
I think I might be making that up, but like Vanessa and his son, and they see him and they're like, "What are we doing here?" And he's like, "Wait, no, it's me. You know me."
And they run away.
And then this history repeats itself, and like that. Even though we hate him because he's an evil dude and he's diabolical.
Killed that version of Spider-Man, yeah.
Exactly. You still kind of are like, oh, I get it. I understand why you're driven to do what you do. And I think that is so much better than just being evil for evil's sake.
Yeah.
because no human's like that unless you're actually a sociopath, and in that case, you're probably just a serial killer.
Yeah, because I think you would have a different feeling about the movie. Would have its own different feeling if he was just trying to use the collider to just use it.
Yeah, and Spider-Man, even less, Peter B. Parker, even sort of makes that joke where it's like, oh, well, now's the time where he says the thing about 24 hours. Like, you're making the joke about the stereotypical villain.
Yeah.
But, you know, there is still that humanity to him. So there's, like, both. Like, they're poking fun at the fact that this is pretty common, but also he has his own story. So I really like that.
Yeah, it was really great to see. I think. What was your favorite scene?
Oh my gosh, my favorite scene. I actually really liked when Spider-Man and Miles had to break into Doc Ock's office.
Yeah,
is that what you were saying?
Totally fine. Just
oh
like,
my gosh,
they're just like planning it out and like, oh, you gotta steal. I'll steal the bagel at this point. It's like
it's
that.
so
whole,
good, and then he just decides to take the whole computer and he's invisible, and it's like, I don't know. That was just such.
It was
so well written, well edited. Like
so
the pacing
it was just
really
thought out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There were jokes. It's like, okay, remember this password, and he's just like throwing out numbers and letters, and he's like, ah.
It's like, oh, good thing we don't need the monitor anymore. Don't worry about that. It was just very well executed, and then them kind of learning how to web shoot away. It was just, and then Gwen saving them at the end. It was just that whole sequence.
The appearance of Gwen
was just really, really excellent.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of good scenes.
Yeah, but I think that one just like, I don't know, it just the way they executed was just so funny. And then of course the animation during that whole sequence was great.
Oh man, it's like, what am I doing with my life? This is so good. This is such art. This is art. It was amazing.
Well, let's go back to Miles for a little bit. Let's talk about the relationship between him and his family. So we have him and his dad and his mom, and we have his uncle. Mm-hmm. Now we didn't get a lot of, and this is one of the things that I wish there was a little bit more of. We didn't get a lot of screen time with the mom.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, she's Latina, the father's black. Mm-hmm. They're gonna have different parenting styles, and I would just love to have seen the relationship between Miles and his mom a little bit more, because she's Latina. There's gonna be certain ways she would want to handle certain things and talk to him a certain way versus how the dad would. Mm-hmm. Just like that conversation they had at the dorm when they're on the different sides of the door. Like, that was just very touching. But I would love to see like how she would have talked to Miles under similar circumstances, or just I just wanted to get a little bit more of her.
I think you're right, and I think I thought about this a little bit, and I think we're going to get that in the future because this is not the only movie we're going to get.
I hope so.
With Miles, it can't be. This is like a perfect movie. They would be ridiculous if they didn't.
Hopefully it continues to do well. I mean, critically, it's knocking it out of the park. But
so I thought about this, and I think if you were to focus, you have to focus on one parent. I think like that's kind of, and especially because of where this takes place, and just like the urban environment, and like just feeling like you have to impress your dad. Like that's just a very common story that I think. I'm not mad that they didn't focus on the mom personally, because I think that they had to ride one angle, and I'm glad that they did.
Well, I don't want them to. I wouldn't take away any of the scenes with him and his dad, because those
But I guess
worked.
My point is, if you start adding stuff, then it becomes just a little convoluted.
It could. It easily could, and it could cheapen or lessen any of the other scenes with the dad. So I hear what you're saying, but I just think because that relationship is important too. That just like the relationship between him and his uncle is important. I wish we got a little bit more of that too. Yeah. Especially just one more scene before he figures out that he's a prowler. Yeah. Or maybe a little bit more of them together once he does figure out he's the prowler, and then he figures out he's Spider-Man too. Just a little bit more of that before he died would have been great too. I
agree, but in terms of the mom, I think she's a little bit more understanding.
Yeah.
So there's not that much conflict there with them that they built. She is like, hey, leave him alone. He's going through a tough time. Oh, we're here for you. Like, she's not as hard on Miles as his father is. So I think that's probably why that they wanted that dynamic to play out the way it did, is because there wasn't that much conflict there with her. But there might be, you know, in subsequent...
I mean, or what they could have done, just had the two parents talking about Miles and like having maybe different approaches of how they should, like, especially like when they couldn't figure out where he was.
Yeah.
Like having them have a conversation about like oh my god,
really not as worried as I would be.
I mean, like,
if I were a parent, I would be like, "Where's our son?"
Like all this is going on. Like, I'm just gonna call him a couple of times. Hey, he didn't answer back. It's fine.
Yeah,
I'm sure he's fine. You know, I don't know where he is, but I'm sure he's okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
And like when he went to the dorm, like I would have like, F that. You're not opening the door. I'm coming in. Like I haven't seen you. I don't know if are you okay?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm coming in. So, but
so there is already that trust, obviously, because if there wasn't, he would have broken the door down. Like, so he's trying to trust his son, at least. He's trying to give him the space that he needs. He's trying to treat him like an adult, trying to respect his privacy. So I actually really liked that moment for,
I loved it
for
too.
Dad, because it told me that he wasn't all like control. It was like he's really trying to give his son, to like let him go, to be an adult, to like grow into an adult, even though he's still quite young.
Well, that's why he went to the path of the cop, and his brother went to the path of like being a villain. Is that like he can understand that, hey, my son is going through some things. I want to be here for him, but I got to give him the space that he needs and deserves as he's growing older. I can't just treat him like he's a little kid.
Yeah.
So
this is a really difficult thing to do with multiple characters, especially in like a superhero story, is everybody has their own motivations and arc.
Yeah.
And it actually works really well for
for
everybody.
Yeah.
I would have liked to know a little bit more about Uncle.
Yeah, especially because like in the comics he plays a much bigger role and he's a lot meaner to Miles. So yeah, and like I said, I would have liked once he figured out that was Miles, not him just dying so quickly. I mean, like how much longer do we want the movie to be? But I just would have wanted. They could have
saved it for a sequel, right? They could have been like they could have revealed it and then they get away. And then it's like, oh shit, my uncle is this bad guy. How do I deal with this now?
Yeah.
How do I figure this out? How do I... Yeah, that would have been a really interesting story, but you know...
Or him like trying to like, well, now that my nephew's a hero, could I be a hero? Like, maybe like that little pause of like, should I go through with it? Should I not? Like a little bit of dilemma there, even though like he should get killed anyway. Because he is a bad guy. It's just that I wish there was a little bit more between him and Miles.
They really could have built that over the course of several sequels.
Maybe.
Or even just in this
Or
film.
just another scene. Like, if you really just want to get him out of the way, I understand that. So you don't have that looming. But just a little bit more of them once they both realize that who each other really are.
Yeah.
And then what that could be going forward, even though, like, he dies.
Yeah, that's a good point. And... I appreciated that they built up the relationship between them very early, and it's like, he's telling me to be myself. My uncle's telling me to, you know, express myself, and he's cool. He's telling me how to talk to chicks, and you know,
Hey. No, I can't move a hand.
I thought that was actually like a really cute writing moment. That kept calling like. Rule of 3, right? So you introduce it, he tries it on Gwen, and then he tries it on Kingpin, and that's the winning strike. So, like, that's actually really good writing, the rule of 3 there. But yeah, it would have been... I really appreciated the moments that we did share with Miles and his uncle. Yeah. I thought those were really good. I honestly, like, had to really focus to try to think of things that I didn't like about this movie or that I wanted to.
I just wanted more. Yeah, there's like nothing.
It was really hard.
Yeah, there's nothing I didn't like. I just wanted more because it was just so good. It's like like when the movie's over, like, oh man, it's over.
I know.
What more?
Yeah.
When it's so much more. Let's talk about Peter B. Parker a little bit.
Okay.
Because again, like I said before, it's not a Spider-Man we've ever seen on the big screen before. A Spider-Man that literally had everything and then just kind of like let it fall to the wayside. Like, you just let it kind of dissolve and disintegrate.
Or he might have not let it. Sometimes things just happen that way.
Yeah.
And I think that was part of the message of the story, which is like, you know, things happen, you can fix them maybe, but like don't be so hard on yourself type of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of a little bit of the message for Peter, at least, where it's like, hey, your life's not over, just, you know, do a little better.
Yeah, I mean, because like he kind of was giving up or like in a midlife crisis kind of thing, where he just kind of like just was like, all right, I lost Gwen. I lost Mary Jane. Just deal with it.
Well, this is interesting too. Like, imagine if Alex goes into another dimension and I see that I'm dead in another dimension. That would be really like soul searching, because I'd be like, wait a minute, I'm dead in this dimension. What didn't I do? What should I do better? Like, should I go back? And maybe I can't even get back to my own dimension to fix. Like, it would be a really harrowing experience to, you know, experience yourself being dead and then thinking about what you would have to do to fix it in your own dimension, and you might not even be able to get back.
Or just to see how the Spider-Man in the universe that died, how successful he was. Mm-hmm. And he's like, "What?
I'm blonde."
Yeah, how do you have all these things?
Yeah.
So just like seeing it and then it's like seeing how Mary Jane, like just seeing her again, just brought back all those feelings for him. It was again just a nice, and seeing like tutor Miles and put him under his wing and stick up for him. It was just again just like seeing Spider-Man with a sidekick. On the big screen, never seen that before. He's almost always really by himself.
Yeah.
Or like in Spider-Man Homecoming, we like see him with his friends, but he's just always alone on his own doing his thing and having to deal with things by himself. It was just nice to see him with these different dynamics. Him having a little bit of a protege, him working within a team. It was just nice to see that dynamic on screen. Because again, for most people, if you don't read the comics, you never seen that dynamic with Spider-Man before, really, so it was just nice to see that element, too.
And he even mentions it when they're in the vent up above, when they're going to break into Doc Ock's, lab. You know, he's still not trustworthy of Miles. And then he's like, well, actually, I'm not used to having someone on my side. I've always gone it alone, so this is really nice. And that was a nice moment for us audience members, too, because just like you were saying, it's like, we've never seen this, so this is fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Anything else you want to cover before we give it a score, wrap it up?
There's honestly so much. I just want to hit home the power of the writing and how good it was and how just everything wrapped up, and they really had their characters down. Like, the characters were just so well done, and the visuals. The only thing that I wanted to say, this is one more thing that I feel like could have been done a little differently that might have made it better for me. That very, 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 very end sequence where Miles is lying in his bed and he's doing this and he's like, I'm the Spider-Man, and then we see, hi, I'm Gwen, I'm here. And I wish that they would have saved that or not done it, because I kind of wanted to feel like the gates were closed. I wanted to feel like the story was over before. We know it's not. But I wanted to feel that way. I wanted to feel that closure, and I don't feel like I got that, because they were like, oh, well, all the work you did doesn't really matter because I'm here. We can talk, and I'm coming back.
But I hear what you're saying, but it kind of opens a door to see, like, all right, well, your universe is safe. Maybe Gwen's now is having an issue on her end, and that just will bring Gwen and Miles back together.
But I think they could have done that in the sequel without having to introduce it in this one. I felt like it cheapened the goodbyes to me. Because we get the post-credit sequence, right? Should we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
So we get that. So look, we know
that was just a nice joke. Which was a great joke. Because that Spider-Man, I mean, we've all seen it with the original 60s Spider-Man with the pointing. Like stuff. You're pointing at me. You start like that. This whole joke, and that's one of the things I just also want to just drive home. The humor in this movie, was just so good and so self-aware. Mm-hmm. Like even the making jokes about Spider-Man 3 and the emo Spider-Man, just knowing. All that stuff is just so funny, and it's one thing to tell a joke and for it to work, but it's another thing to kind of ram it home. And a lot of comedies, especially sequels, will just like, hey, we're telling a joke, and I'm gonna make sure you know we're telling a joke, and hit you over the head with it. And like, is it funny? Are you laughing? Instead of just being, let the story naturally tell the joke, and it be funny that way. Like the Hey thing was funny, and then the second time we did it was funny, and then we did it to the Kingpin was funny, and it just naturally felt funny instead of them forcing it, and it like making you like, oh, I think I'm supposed to laugh at this point.
Yeah.
You know, like there are movies that are comedies that are like that, and I never felt like that at one moment in this movie. Like all the laughs worked. I laughed at the right time. I think all the audience did too. Like even at the end, the people that like I still don't get. If you're at a superhero movie, why are you leaving early? Like the odds of there being a post-credit scene now are just like almost 100%. Why would you leave early? I don't get it. To this point, I don't get it. But
I
whatever.
guess maybe they want to be surprised by what. But you know, with the internet, there's no possibility of being surprised anymore whatsoever. Anyway,
it's like I always just feel like, where are you going? I just feel like yelling at them, even though I never do. Like, you know, there's a post-credit scene.
Sit down.
Like, sit down and watch it. But some people just either like, I don't know. I got things to do, I guess. But anywho, let's give it a score. So out of
Dimensions
or
spider dimensions
or web shootings, like how many? Out of
goobers?
10.
How many goobers?
How many goobers?
Okay, so this is a really, really rare occurrence for me because I hate everything. But I'm going to give this movie a 9.5.
Wow.
I know. The 0.5 being docked for reasons like the ending, which could have been like just a little bit different, and then, you know, just a couple of other small things here and there about him and his uncle and wanting more of that, and just like some tiny stuff. Like that's the 0.5. I thought this movie was so well written, so well animated, and so refreshing, and like I felt stuff.
Yeah,
like
me too.
I almost even cried. Like I'm not like a black young man in Brooklyn, and like I felt stuff because they really played to humanity. I don't know, it sounds like really lame, but it's so true.
Well, let me ask you something. If instead, when Miles is on his bed, what if the animation that they used for the collider, that just started to happen and then they ended it? Would that have been better for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Something a little bit more questionable that like leaves me wondering a little bit.
What's going on?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair. I mean, I like the way it ended, but I can understand what you're saying.
I did not like it. I just thought they could have done it differently. That would have made me feel a little bit better.
That's fair.
Anyway.
I mean, for me, as a older man growing up, I grew up in Brooklyn.
Right, exactly.
It was easy to relate to, and I kind of just like, I could have easily put myself in that shoes, or I could have easily put myself in a position where if I was a young kid looking at this and looking up to Miles and going like, wow, like that, like I could overcome anything. It was kind of like back when watching Black Panther, it's like, like seeing the little kids watch Black Panther and looking up to that. It's like, just seeing that, you know, the possibilities that it could bring, that you can do anything, and you can picture yourself, you know, I could be Spider-Man maybe, or I can do these kind of things, or I can overcome these things. We all
wear the mask.
Power of that, yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry, we didn't talk about the Stan Lee cameo and that.
Everyone was like, "Oh,
yeah." Like knowing what he's saying, it always fits. It's like, oh man.
I know.
I was like,
it hit a little hard.
Yeah, it's like, oh man. I'm sorry if we almost ended it without getting to that. It's just it's just like, oof. Just knowing that. Anyways, but like, just knowing that you can relate to it, regardless of who you are. It was really great. So I think my score, based on like the animation and the story and the jokes and being able to relate to it, the love letter to New York, like. I'm going to give it a 9.6.
Oh, got to upstage me.
I'm going to upstage you because I went second. I really can't say anything bad about this movie, and I can't recommend it more than enough. It's just really, again, if you love animation, please go see this. If you love Spider-Man, if you love superhero movies, if you love a good story, if you love coming of age, any kind of movie that you are into, you can sit down, whether it's by yourself or with a group of friends, or you bring your kids or whatever, you will enjoy this movie. I can't see how, if you have a soul and blood running through your veins, you can come out of that movie and say, you know what, I didn't like it.
Yeah, don't trust those people. Don't trust.
No, because they're either robots or they're zombies. One of the two. If you don't like this movie, you're either a robot or you're a zombie, or you're just, I don't know. I don't know.
Or you're wrong.
I don't want to say you're wrong, but you're not right. So, that's what we think. So let's hear what you guys think. Did you love Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse? Where do you think the sequel's gonna go? Because I think there is so many different possibilities, so many different Spider-Men or Spider-People. Would you like to see Silk?
Pigs.
Would you like to see Scarlet Spider? What kind of other Spider-People do you want to see? Let us know. Start commenting below. Also like, subscribe, do all those great things. Also remember to hit that notification bell to know when we do our other videos. But until next time, I'm Sean.
I'm Alex. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
And goodbye.
Bye guys.